Hi, I am Allie Camaletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Hi, everyone. Today we are talking about delegation. Delegation is the act of giving a particular job or duty to someone else. Randy Conley is Vice President and Trust Practice Leader of Ken Blanchard Companies. He is a co-author of Blanchard's Building Trust training program and works with leaders and organizations around the globe, helping them build and restore trust in the workplace. Randy co-authored the book, Simple Truths of Leadership, 52 Ways to Be a Servant Leader and Build Trust, and is contributing author to 3 other books, including Leading at a Higher Level with Ken Blanchard. His award-winning Leading with Trust blog has influenced 4 million viewers and counting. I have been following and sharing the Leading with Trust blog for so many years now, I can't even remember. It is one of my absolute favorites because of the work I do and the first Tiger's principle being trust. Randy, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful to have everyone hear your knowledge and share.
Well, thank you, Allie. It's my pleasure to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. All right. So I like to start off. What is something that you've learned about yourself this year?
Okay, we're going deep, quick. I would say one thing that I've learned and is becoming increasingly clear to me is the idea of making the implicit explicit.
Ooh.
And involving relationships. I have been learning we take so many things for granted in our relationships. You know, we make so many assumptions. We think other people are thinking like we do. We think they're on the same wavelength as we are, you know, and that they're sort of reading between the lines of what we're trying to communicate. And I've just been learning that that's not the case. And all these things that I assume are implicit in my relationships with others, I need to do a better job at making them explicit. So that's been a constant learning experience for me this year. Yeah.
So I need to know more. How are you doing that?
One way is I'm trying to keep my I love yous up to date. So Ken Blanchard, who's one of my mentors, and I've worked with him for going on 27 years now, that's his saying. Be sure to keep your I love yous up to date. And so in my closest relationships, which I'm pretty sure people know how I care about them and what I feel towards them, I'm just not missing the opportunity to explicitly say that, right? So that's one way. And then the other way that I'm trying to be mindful is being clear on my intentions up front. So when I'm, working with someone, embarking on a new project, or, asking them to collaborate on something, just being explicit about my intentions, sharing that so that they know where I'm coming from and that there's less room for misinterpretation or questioning what my agenda is or motives. And I personally, there's kind of a selfish aspect to it also because I feel better about the relationship. I feel like things are above board. There's nothing under the surface that we're not dealing with. And to me, it's less stressful. It's a more enjoyable relationship when we're much more explicit about things. So that's what I've been trying to do.
So what I thought you were going to say and is where I would go, is asking more questions. Does that come into play?
Yeah, yep. Asking questions is a very important leadership skill, along with listening.
Right.
That's another key thing that even though I teach this to clients that I work with all the time about the importance of listening, it's still hard, right? It's hard to not jump to what your next thought's going to be, or what you think the solution is, or the answer to the problem, and actually listening. Novel concept, right? Like, let's listen, and maybe we'll learn something. Maybe we'll actually be influenced by the other person's ideas, and we'll reach a better decision, right, by taking other people's ideas into account. So that's a constant practice for me, is listening. And yes, questions certainly come into play with that.
So you're taking us right into, as far as, when did you first embody this skill of delegation, which what you've learned this year plays right into it, right? How can you delegate if you don't know that they are on the same page as you, so that when you're collaborating, everything is happening smoothly?
Right. Part of my leadership journey is there was a time I was managing it was actually multiple teams. The total group of people were like 60 people in these collection of teams. And we needed to develop, we needed to raise the level of professionalism in our group. And I had all these grand ideas of what a training process would look like for every team member. And based on wise advice from managers who reported to me, they collectively said, why don't we let Kelly and Steph, two key leaders on our team, why don't we let them draft up what a professionalism curriculum would look like for our team, a training experience? I said, okay, all right, let's delegate that to them. They ended up coming up with this curriculum. We called it Cultivating Professionals. It was a 16-month learning journey over this period of time that covered this broad range of subjects, all germane, to our team. It was just phenomenal. We have an annual People's Choice Awards program in our company, and it won an award for their effort that they put into it. It was far beyond anything I could have done myself if I was leading it. And that was an early sort of aha experience of like, oh, Randy, just because you're the designated quote unquote leader doesn't mean you have all the best ideas, right? Doesn't mean that your way is always the best way or the only way. So that was a real eye opener for me, earlier in my leadership career, of like, give other people the opportunity to lead. Because if you're sort of hogging all the responsibility, you're depriving others of the chance to grow and to blossom. So delegation, I think a lot of times leaders maybe have this misconception of delegation as like just getting stuff off my plate so I don't have to worry about it, right? No, delegation is like a training and development process also for your people, right? By smartly delegating things to your team members, you're increasing the bench strength of your whole team. You're developing the skills and capabilities of your team members. That benefits everyone, them individually, the organization as a whole, the customers or clients you're serving. So it's far more than just getting work off your plate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And I think your example is so beautiful, because what I hear more than not, what holds people back from delegation, is they had the opposite of that. And so it plays right into the trust piece.
So
and
they delegated and got burned. Something didn't go the way they wanted. So now they hold back on things.
Yeah. So when you've worked with organizations and they're just doing awesome at delegating, what does that look like?
Wow. It looks like freedom. It looks like trust. Um, you know, I like to point out to people, I ask people the question, what do you think the opposite of trust is? And people, rightfully so, often say, well, it's distrust or it's mistrust, right? If you don't trust something or someone, you distrust it. Actually, the opposite of trust is control. The opposite of trust is control. And what does delegation require? It requires trust. It requires you letting go of control, right? And turning responsibility over to someone, trusting them to do what needs to be done. And so it just strikes at the very heart of trust. You have to be able to trust the person or team that you're delegating to. And it doesn't mean you just do that willy-nilly, right? You do it logically, you do it smartly, you evaluate their competence and their commitment to do whatever needs to be done. But if it checks those boxes, they can do it and let go, and I think more often than not, leaders will be rewarded for extending that trust and delegating and let people run with it versus, either A, not delegating at all, which is controlling, not trusting, or kind of delegating with conditions,
Yeah.
or I'm going to put you on a leash. I'm only going to delegate so far, right? And whenever things aren't going the way I like, I'm going to yank you back closer, right? And nobody likes that. So who would have thought that there's all these nuances to delegating, right? It's like it says a lot about your trust in other people when you're willing to delegate work to them.
It is the biggest leadership challenge that I end up seeing. It really is. And so I'm going to go a little bit off here and ask, when you've looked at an organization, maybe they brought you in, however that looks, and the main leader delegates, is very trusting, but then that next level of leadership is not. What do you think is happening there? And can you share your experience?
Yeah. First I would say there's no one size fits all, and in all
Exactly.
things leadership and human behavior, there aren't any magic silver bullets out there, So with sort of those two caveats, it makes me think a couple of things. One is, what is the true nature of that relationship between the senior leader and the next layer down? Because people do things for a reason. So is that mid-level of manager, are they truly trusting of their senior leader? Do they have a real positive relationship or not? Are there things that are causing that middle layer to hold on tighter, right? The other is that each of us as individuals, we all have our own unique propensity to trust. We all have a likeliness of how much we're willing to trust others. And it's based on many things, primarily early life experiences with trust, role models in our life. Our personalities are a big shaper of that. And it's different for all of us. So even though you may have a great relationship with your leader, based on your own temperament, personality, experiences with trust, you may not be as trusting, right? And less willing. And so that's where I think you have to have some self-awareness. The whole emotional intelligence component comes into play, right? Some self-awareness of what your relationship with trust is and learning the skills, because trust is a skill that you can learn. Learning how to delegate more, learning how to assess the trustworthiness of others so that you feel more comfortable with that risk of trusting. So those would be the things that I would initially, start to explore.
And so when you've gone into an organization and there isn't delegation happening, what does that look like?
It generally looks like people who have quit but stayed. That's sort of a
Ooh.
phrase. There's been a lot of talk recently, right, about quiet quitters, and that
Yep.
whole phenomenon, which is really getting down to engagement, essentially, right? Like how engaged, committed are people feeling to their work? And when there's not effective delegation going on, it can lead to people punching the clock, right? The same old thing day after day. Here's my little box. I'm expected to be in this box and stay in this box. If I go outside this box, someone's going to redirect me back into the box. So I'm just going to do my little thing, check in, check out. And so I think the more leaders can get comfortable with the uncomfortableness of delegation, the more that they can allow people to flourish and grow and experience, more engagement in their work. Otherwise, people are going to respond to the environment that we create for them. So I'm in favor of creating one where there's more freedom and trust than there is control and constraint.
Yeah. Exactly. I had a conversation recently with a leader, and he's like, "Allie, it's so nice. It's like a weight has been lifted off of us." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're delegating. Like
Yeah,
you're supposed to be just up here supporting,
right.
not in the weeds all the time.
Exactly.
That's the way it's supposed to be." And
That's
he's
right.
like, "I'm trying not to feel guilty for it." I was like, "Don't feel guilty. That's the way it's supposed to be."
It can be a big mind shift for folks, can it? Right? It's,
Totally.
it's because how do most people get into leadership roles? They're like the top performers in their individual
Yep.
role, right? And it's like, oh, Allie's doing a great job. Let's make her the supervisor. Let's make her the manager. Let's make her the vice president, right? And the higher up you go in an organization, the less you're functionally or technically, in the weeds of the job, and the nature of your leadership role changes. It's a whole different skill set, right? From being an individual contributor to being a leader. And a lot of people struggle with that. Letting go, delegating others to do that work that you used to be the expert doing, right?
Yeah.
That's a hard shift for folks.
Well, and it's also self-worth.
Yeah.
Right? If I was in there doing all the things and getting all the accolades, and then I get promoted and I'm like, "Oh, what does this feel like and look like? And where's my worth coming from?" And that shift of your worth is about supporting others and seeing their
Yeah.
successes, right?
Allie, this is no joke, I'm getting goosebumps because what you just said was exactly what a group of leaders said to me a couple weeks ago. I was working with them in a training session. We were talking about developing your people to be peak performers. And what are some of the fears or obstacles that get in your way as a leader of doing that? What do you think they said? Well, what's my role then, right? If all my people are top performers, then where do I fit in? And it's like, bingo, light bulb, there you go. Your job is about empowering others and helping them perform their best. Delegation is a key route to getting there. That's like the end goal. You want to be able to delegate to your team. And then your job, as you said, Allie, you're that air traffic controller up there that's synchronizing everything, making sure everything's working the way it's supposed to be.
Love it. All right. So share with us, Randy, who is one of your favorite mentors?
Well, Ken Blanchard obviously is one of my favorite mentors. He's and the reason that is because he has such an open and warm, generous spirit. He is very much the epitome of leadership is about we rather than me, and so that's very inspiring to me. Another leadership mentor is a couple of guys. One is Keith Potter and John Tostad. people that I'm sure your listeners have probably never even heard of, but they were both pastors in the church that I grew up in. And they both gave me leadership opportunities at a very early age that really let me cut my teeth on what does it mean to try to influence others, to try to lead a group of people. And that's something that I've tried to incorporate into my leadership approach. Is it's about giving other people the spotlight, the opportunity to shine, right? Create opportunities for people. It's not about you as the leader, getting all the trophies and all the accolades. Create the opportunities for your people. And then in this weird, paradoxical leadership kind of way, the light comes back to you because you've got such a great team, right? Of superstars that are hitting the numbers, achieving the goals, and you as a leader get credit along with all that. So it's this weird, universal, karmic principle, whatever you want to call it, right? The more you give away to others, the more things come back to you. So those three folks have been really important mentors to me.
Love it. And as far as a quote that you feel like really embodies delegation and what that looks like, what would it be?
It would probably be leadership begins with trust. And it's not a quote from a famous person that I know of. It's the tagline of my blog, Leading with Trust. When I first created my blog 15 plus years ago, I think it was, I thought, what would be a good tagline, right? Like leading with trust. I truly believe great leadership begins with trust. That's where it begins. That's how it continues. And that's where it ends. Trust is the foundation of it all. And so I think that's the number one priority for leaders, is to first build trust with their people, and then everything else can build upon that.
And where you started, if we go full circle, it is about our relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every relationship.
Every relationship and every interaction we have in those relationships is an opportunity to either build trust or erode trust, right? We're rarely standing still. And, I'm sure you're probably familiar with the idea of like an emotional bank account, right? That we have in relationships. I think the same is true with trust. We have like a trust bank account, and we're either making deposits or withdrawals on that account, right? Throughout our interactions. And woe to the person who makes more withdrawals than deposits, right? Because there's not really any overdraft protection in the trust bank account system, right? If you get too depleted in there, that's hard to come back from. Not impossible, but just hard.
And the base of being able to be mindful.
Yes.
Each time you're taken from that bucket, right?
That's right.
And seeing that, that was a trust opportunity.
Yep. Oops, I made a withdrawal there, right?
Yeah.
Which happens because we're people, right? People are messy. We goof up. Yep. We say stupid things. We do dumb things. But if we're making many more deposits into that trust account, we have high trust relationships. That's what gives us the buffer to weather those tough times, right? When the friction points happen, we're like, I'm good because I've built up this bank of trust with Allie. She knows what my intentions are. She knows that this is not representative of who I typically am or how I behave. We'll be okay. We can get through this.
Well, and it helps people go to that, giving people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Which is something I constantly try to focus on. All right, let's wrap up with what's your favorite snack?
Without a doubt, donuts.
Oh, of course.
I am a donut freak. They're like,
and that's a snack?
Well, for me, it is. For me, donuts qualify as like all the major food groups, so It's like that's my kryptonite. I had 2 donuts this morning, Allie. 2
Oh, wow.
donuts. I went to a meeting, like a peer leadership support group meeting. There were donuts there. I had 2. That's my quota for the day. I'm good to go.
Okay, so let's expand. Sprinkles, bacon. What do you like on your donuts?
I'm a purist. I like glazed donuts, twists, sometimes chocolate covered. Cinnamon crumbles are in there. Cinnamon rolls are in there. I don't go for too much of the sprinkles and the flavored frosting and all that stuff. I'm a purist. Pure donuts.
Love it. Oh, Randy, thank you so much. I am
My
really,
pleasure.
really grateful. Yeah, for our time together today. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Allie. It was my pleasure. I had a lot of fun chatting with you. Now
All
you've
right, you
made
have
me
an
hungry
awesome
for
day.
more donuts.
I'm hungry for donuts. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.